Cheers. Welcome to this week's Moto News Live Show. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer one. We're going to talk about the strong effort of Eli Tomac, along with what's into some MXGP and some Ducati coming back with their MXGP team, and then also their MotoGP success as well. So without any further ado, let's get into this show. I am so bummed to see this photo right here. This is horrible. Abso-effing-lutely horrible that this individual, the savior of Colorado, the guy that I was hoping to be on Ducati nonetheless, is now out of the series. He is now 5th in points, down almost a full race where he should be 2 to 3. He was on his way to having the fastest lap time in qualifying until this happened, where he just smacked his foot and it got crushed in between the jump and his foot peg, causing the massive break to his fib. And unfortunately, we know that it's not a weight-bearing bone, which is good, meaning that you can walk on it without really causing any more damage. But I wonder, the first thing that comes to mind is he went to the Asterix medical unit, and I know they can give x-rays there and everything. It probably was pretty even, right? Like, this still looks like it can grow back together without surgery. It's not completely displaced. The bones are touching each other. So he should be okay without surgery as long as he lets it heal. And that could take 3 to 6 weeks, 3 being very, very early. But he could even get it pinned and maybe be back to racing sooner, right? The big bone is if he breaks this one, that's your tibia plateau fractures usually when you take both of them, right? So the foot peg just took this one. And so I could see him back in the next 4 or 5 races, right? So that he could at least come back and potentially get some more wins under him. But this is a bummer. This is the same leg that he had the Achilles on. But I want to say, what a freaking beast of a ride for him to finish 17th and make points. Finish 17th. Beat Kevin, Hand, Roxon, Tristan Lane. I mean, these guys went down during the whole Roxon, these last 3 guys, but he still made points. He made points on Kenny, which is crazy. So he holds the record for having anybody to be able to go through whoops, jump triples with a broken fibia, which is insane. And again, I'm making the point as he went to the Asterix medical unit, probably knew it was broken right away, and they went and said that he had a bruised calf, and that is a issue, right? But he probably made it to the point where he was going, hey, I'm going to try to ride, try to make some points, and we'll see what happens, because it's not horrible, and him racing on it probably moved the bones a little bit. And I'm sure they wrapped the crap up. We saw him walking on the starting line, and for him to even be able to get on the motorcycle and, like I said, go through whoops, the dude holds the record for being kind of the badass, toughest dude on a dirt bike. He takes it from Cameron McAdoo for sure. And I guess the other segue is so many other guys getting injured in Supercross. We've got both the Hunters out, right? And Sexton went down. He's not injured at the moment. You had Cooper Webb saying that he was potentially had some issues as well, and all these guys are getting sick, but the majority of the field is dwindling, and it's only round 5 of 17. The 250 class is almost non-existent, almost on both coasts, at least the pro circuit team, because of everything that they're going with. And it's just like, man, what do these guys really have to ride at 150% to be competitive, to where if anything goes wrong, boom. And the tracks seem to be somewhat taking people out. At least this last weekend, you had the whoops. Do I have a Tom Vial's crash here? You know, he goes down hard in the whoops. Pierce Brown went down hard in the whoops. Sexton went down hard in the whoops. What Sexton said was, hey, it was not a good way to end his night. He had a bad lap in the main event and went down and damaged his front brake and throttle, and he just had to limp the bike over with what he had. So that was an issue as well. And he should have won that race, and it was all the whoops along with the tough blocks. You know, here's Hunter crashing with his tough block, where he probably should have been okay, but just ran into the freaking tough block. And if we go overseas a little bit, you have Jeffrey Hurlings, who is now having surgery with his torn ACL. Prado's out for the Kawasaki team. And I went over this a little bit before in my show. Thoughts on Kenny's crash? He was trying to split lappers, and that ended up causing him to run in between Hand and also Tristan Lane. And it was just kind of wrong place, wrong time. The lappers shouldn't have been there. They should have had the blue flag. My thoughts on it is, if you get the blue flag and you impede the rider's progression, you do need a fine. I know going to all the safety meetings, AMA and Feld pointed out straight, say it's like a minimum of a $5,000 fine if you impede the progress of a rider coming through. And for the media guys, that's included. If I was to get on the track, obviously, yeah, that would be a bad thing and would not be okay. So we should definitely potentially have those, I want to say, lappers get somewhat, have a repercussion per se. And that would keep them from stopping their forward progress and letting the faster guys by. If they're going to be on the same track, yes, I do believe that they deserve to be on the track. But if it's going to impede the progress of the leaders, no. And you guys are sitting here saying it wasn't the lapper's fault. You could argue both ways. I like I said, I went in my video. We talked not to nauseam about it, but I talked pretty extensively about it in this video. If you look back on it, and these lines came together. Kenny was trying to split two other riders, and Hands and Roxon's line came together, and that's basically what ended up happening. And so, yeah, it was not the lapper's fault, but I would argue that it was the lapper's fault for being there while the leaders were trying to pass them. If they were rolling the sand section and giving the leaders a clear shot, that's okay. It's almost to the point where if you are driving down the highway and you have emergency lights on and you're trying to hold your line when there's other traffic there, you're still blocking the emergency vehicle from getting around you. That's why you're supposed to pull off, right? So there almost should be something said with the blue flag that you were supposed to pull off. You're supposed to get out of the way. That's my thought on it. I do think that privateers deserve to be on the track, but once you're getting lapped, it's a completely different story. Again, this is why I would like to have a third class be, maybe it's the electric class, okay, where it's the stock class for the new e-bikes that are coming up with the Stark and all the Yamahas and Hondas and KTMs and mumbo jumbo, whatever, right? It's not going to be the most popular class, but anyway, that would leave these top tier athletes be able to showcase what they can, because they can't really showcase their talent when they have equipment that is dog shit compared to the factory bikes. Okay. Granted, you do put Kenny on Jeremy Hand's bike. He's going to be top 10. He's going to perform better than Hand. However, you put Hand on Kenny's bike, he's going to be top 10, top 5. That's just kind of the way it's going to be, right? So that's my point. But we don't have enough professionals to fill the gates, especially with how many riders are getting done. That's why we still have it, but it is sort of weeding it out with the Supercross futures, but that's not really the discussion I'm trying to make here, especially during this live show. But I also want to take a small moment to, if you're not following Coach Rob, make sure you go to his YouTube channel, just search Coach Rob Beams, and he's got a plethora of information here, from his playlists for being a vet rider to amateur motocross to some of the professionals to a full-blown playlist of strength training to anything as far as stretching to isolating injuries. And that is all available on his YouTube channel at Coach Rob. Dun, dun, dun. But it's a bummer. We're not going to see Hurlings racing because he now is injured as well. And it's almost seeming as if we're just losing a bunch of guys, because now Kaida Wolf has an ankle injury, so he's not going to be there for some of the tests as well. And if I look at some of the MotoGP stuff, well, a week ago, you had the Yamaha team at their first test be like a full second faster than anybody. And this is particularly to some of the new rules that MotoGP has had with my daughter. I told her to be quiet here, and it was just 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. And that's what you get when you get with snow days here. But I'm digressing. Yamaha pretty much owned everybody at the first test, and Ducati retaliated by having Marc Marquez be over, what was it, a full second, half a second faster than the entire field. So that is spectacular. And of course, it's a Ducati. And if I go over to Ducati for MotoGP, you've got Jeremy Sewer, who's going to be their number one guy to try to win the championship. And then they got their number two guy at number 101, and Matteo Guadagnani. Man, I sure hope somebody in the chat is going to be able to tell me if I butchered that at all. And I'm sorry for butchering that, but these bikes are going to be a hot commodity. And I just wonder who's going to be on the factory team for 2026 here in America. You know that I've thought about Tomac along with Deegan per se. And this was also interesting, is that Malcolm Stewart, they're 20 years apart, and James Stewart was only 19 when he won his first Supercross, and Malcolm is 32 when he won his first. That's pretty crazy. And we'll see. If I was Stewart, right, and you know that Tomac is out now, you know that Jed is out, you know that Hunter is potentially injured with a collarbone or a separated shoulder, he'll probably continue the series. Honestly, it'll be a surprise if I see him back out there for this round 6, but at Detroit. If I was Malcolm, this is your one chance that you are going to get to win a championship. And along with Cooper Webb, even though he's already won a championship, you're going to have the opportunity yet again. So Webb, Sexton, and Malcolm are really going to be the guys. Even Jason Anderson, I think he could step up and start performing better as well. I haven't heard anything new about Pierce Brown with his T5. From what I understand is he can feel his toes, but that is a gnarly crash that again was caused by some of the tough blocks. This is a great comment. Malcolm can catch his brother's record at age 50. If he could keep riding at that level at age 50, I will be incredibly, incredibly impressed. So if I go over some of the other comments here, just because I have you here, and then, I need to go talk to my little girl here. Yes, Racecraft, if we're talking back about splitting hairs, Kenny was fighting for a podium, and he was trying to catch Webb that passed him, who was going faster than him. And it was just honestly a bad spot for Kenny to expect the privateers to get out of his way. Those lines came together. Kenny pushed the needle, and yeah, they shouldn't have been there, but boom. Okay. And yes, I'm planning on going to, Arlington, and then Denver, maybe Utah. I was thinking maybe Daytona, but I don't know. I've got some personal appointments that I'd like to go to, actually baby appointments. So I want to make sure that I go to those, and then I want to go to some SMX races as well. But guys, I appreciate everybody. Thanks for joining this weekend moto, and hopefully Tomac can be back. He was my number one guy for winning the series, and now it's bummed, right? So you got the two most popular guys with Jet and Tomac out. Hopefully we're not going to see anybody else go out, because it's going to just make the season not as popular, right? I mean, we want to have the heavy hitters. I want to see really good racing. So how do you keep these guys safe? Track layouts, governors on the motorcycles. I don't know, right? Less laps on the track. But to be fair, Glendale was a triple crown, and those guys do about 30% more riding, and nobody really got hurt besides the flat landings, that impeded the speed of these guys. So pretty much when you have these gladiators out there, they're going to do whatever they need to do to win races. Lennox, what are we doing? All right. Till next time, this is Johnny Hopper. Girl, I said we need to be quiet for 10 minutes.